Are you tired of self-doubt holding you back? Have you ever wished you could have the confidence to face your fears, go after your wildest dreams, and the tools necessary to live your best life? Hey there, amazing listeners. I'm your host and author of How to Grasp Confidence and Own Your Power. And I've made it my mission to help you break free from self-doubt and embrace confidence. Subscribe now and join us as we unlock the secrets to unshakable self-assurance. Let's dive in. In order to lead a team of many, we first have to learn self-mastery and be a leader of one. That's not an easy concept, and it oftentimes leaves us confused, bewildered, lost. We have people to take care of when we start a business, and not many entrepreneurs have ever faced this exact situation and dilemma. A lot of entrepreneurs have come from a corporate environment and are now leading teams, but there's not a lot of great information, guidance, and mentorship out there to show them how to go from being a leader of one to being a leader of many. So my next guest today is going to help us do just that. My friend Kyle Kemp is a guest on the show today, and we're going to talk a little bit about what it means to lead a team of many, what it means to start a business with confidence, and how we can ultimately be this leader that our teams are looking for. Kyle, welcome to the show. Please introduce yourself.
Thanks, Tara. I'm excited to connect and to chat a little bit about this topic today. I think it's a great one for entrepreneurs, especially as they look to move beyond a team of one, or maybe they've got a little bit of funding, or maybe they're really hitting their stride and they're getting ready to scale. And I liked how you mentioned coming from the corporate side, because I actually went through this myself. So I started my career on the corporate side here in the States, had to work my way up into leadership roles, and kind of had to prove myself as a one of one in a couple different ways, right? And differentiate myself. There's a lot of competition on the corporate side, and I got to do a lot of interesting things while I was building my career, right? I got to work with teams of anywhere from 5 to over 1,500 people. I got to work on a lot of strategy and business planning, as well as hiring, building matrices to make sure I've got great candidates that can come in, and because the hiring is expensive, right? And it takes a lot of our time. So making sure I can identify the right individuals to bring into my company, whether that was from, their ability to get the job done, but also, it was a great fit from our side too. It's kind of like this marriage, if you will. It's got to be a good fit on both sides. And so I owe a lot. I started my career at Geico. I owe a lot to how Geico allowed me to kind of learn, and grow and do a bunch of different things. So I'm excited to talk about kind of that transition from like corporate and like good things that we can learn and take away from that, but then also being an entrepreneur, right? So after Geico, I transitioned into being an entrepreneur. I've been in the financial services industry for over 10 plus years. And during that time, I've had the opportunity to work with well over 1,000 different entrepreneurs, whether that's to help them build out their strategy, to coach them one-to-one, to work with their teams. I've been very, very fortunate that my time spent on the corporate side really set me up for a great career in entrepreneurship. So I'm excited to talk about that today, and what that, the pitfalls to look out for, but also some of the ways that you can make sure that you set yourself up for success.
Absolutely. And I do want to point that out that, the skills we learn in corporate are transferable, right? A lot of people undervalue themselves and think that it's a silo. They think that all of these skills and talents and things that they've developed in the corporate workforce won't transfer, or they don't know how to transfer them. And I think that's a big part of a block that a lot of entrepreneurs have, I myself included. I came from a background, it was heavy in sales. I was a corporate sales director, right? And I'd been doing that for years. And somehow I doubted my abilities to sell. Why would I doubt my abilities to sell when I was in charge of millions upon millions of dollars in revenue every single year? Why would I do this? Why would I doubt myself? But I think that's a stumbling block for a lot of entrepreneurs. And that directly correlates back to confidence and our belief in ourselves to understand how we can utilize these abilities and these skill sets that we've learned to transfer them to something that we build ourselves. Have you seen that, Kyle, or is that just me?
Absolutely. I work with I work with a lot of entrepreneurs in the financial services industry, but I work with entrepreneurs all over the world who are who just want to break into being an entrepreneur, for the first. So, think of it like 0 to 1. Like, I want to get my first client, or want to scale to 10,000 in monthly recurring revenue with a service-based business. Like, how am I going to do this? And one of the things that we work through as a framework around, like, what are your skills? And I think this is a really good data point, right? Like, if someone has hired you in a corporate environment to solve a problem for them, then it's a pretty good indicator that there's a lot of companies who have that problem, right? Or who want to solve something like that or something similar. So I'd said, hey, we've got some market validation already. You haven't had to even talk to any prospects. Like, we know that someone's going to want these services. And so, yeah, I would absolutely agree with you. It's definitely a stumbling block. And so sometimes we have to kind of break it down and really list out what are all the skills that have been acquired while in this corporate environment or outside of that. If you're taking courses or invested in yourself through education in different ways, et cetera, and then tie that into what problem it solves for the market. And it's a really good way to put together an offer that you can take and start to acquire your first client. And I went through something similar, again, kind of thinking back to the corporate days when I got the opportunity to lead writing the business plan for Geico in 2017. It was something I hadn't done before, but I got a ton of insight, right? Even from like what a proper executive summary looks like to creating action plans, things that are measurable based on data to improve a KPI, right? All these buzzwords that come out of corporate that now I've taken with me into entrepreneurship and given to other entrepreneurs. But my very first client was writing a business plan for a small business. Actually someone who was taking recycled furniture here in the States and converting it into other goods, right? Like once the furniture has ended its end of life, et cetera. So because of the skills that I acquired there, I was able to get my first client, and then I, kind of just snowballed from there. So big proponent of, leveraging as much as possible in the corporate world. I think, Tara, one of the things that happens is when you're an entrepreneur and you're kind of like sitting at that desk every day in that corporate lifestyle, or if you walk into that treadmill every single day, you get bogged down a little bit in the weeds, and it's tough to say, hey, all these skills that I'm learning here are going to be transferable. And there are multiple people who will probably want to pay me, since this organization that I'm at is currently doing that today.
Exactly. So thank you for saying that, because I think you just gave everyone a confidence boost who wants to start a business, right? But this is for everybody, right? So whether you're leading a team right now and you're in corporate, or you're starting a team and starting your own company, the first thing to acknowledge and understand is all of those skills that you learned from your past life, hey, they're transferable in your new venture as well, right? So that's step one. But if you've led a team in corporate, which most entrepreneurs have, those leadership skills are transferable as well, right? It's different. It's a different level of responsibility and obligation, but these are transferable skills again. So I do think the first step in leadership, whether we're an entrepreneur or not, is to be the team of one first, and to lead the team of one first. I'm a really big proponent of this, because I do believe that our talk has to follow a walk, and we can't just be the talker. We have to walk the walk and demonstrate through our own self-leadership what that looks like to someone else. I think the best way to motivate, inspire, and transform the lives of others, and even the people that are working for us or with us as clients, is to be that leader. Kyle, what do you think about that?
Yeah, I wrote down a note, lead the team of one first. I think that was a great quote. And, one of the things I learned about myself early on in my career was that if I didn't set deadlines for myself, or if I didn't track progress, things were going to get lost. And so if you find that there are things, right, if you're good at self-reflection and you're able to kind of identify some of the things that you're going to struggle with, right? Imagine now that you try to bring on employees and you struggle with organization or project timelines, right? Things are just going to kind of sit in the ether and never get accomplished. So you absolutely have to be able to manage the one-of-one. It's more of a kind of used in the tech, right? Kind of, I wouldn't say necessarily industry, but like tech departments, right? Or project departments of different corporations. But one of the things that I like to implement for myself and for entrepreneurs that I work with are sprints, right? And so we work in like a 2-week sprint. And we'll put together, hey, what are the top actions that need to get accomplished during this period of time? This is something that you can then take and you become really good at, right? Working, for yourself and staying organized, et cetera, the high leverage items that you need to get done during this 2-week period. And then you're able to transfer that right into your employees when you get to that point. You're always kind of keeping it moving, because that's the biggest thing with startups, right? We gotta get to the next day. We gotta keep surviving. And if we can do that, right, then we give ourselves a better chance of getting to a point where we can scale. So when I realized that early on in my career, I've always had some type of self-accountability, whether that's action plans for self-sprints or clear dates and deadlines, right? I like to leverage my calendar as well to set those reminders, 48 hours beforehand or what have you, that, hey, this thing that you said you were going to do needs to happen. So you got to get it done.
Yes, I'm a big advocate of time blocking the calendar, setting dates, deadlines, and expectations, and not just of other people, of myself, right? And again, being a leader of one first. My goal is to show other people, again, through my actions, that things are possible. Because I feel like with being a leader, one of the hardest messages to convey, besides a sense of urgency sometimes, is a sense of importance and duty. Why is this so important? And what ramifications if we don't do this, right? What are the ramifications if we do this but don't do it well? And it's that clarity of language as a leader that we need to have to set those guidelines to help other people, but it also helps ourselves, and to ask these same mirroring self-reflective questions. Hey, self, what if I don't do this? What are the ramifications if I choose not to do this well? What will happen? Because it's really easy sometimes as well to convey this to others, but then do we take our own advice on these things, right? And I think that's so important. And as a leader, it's really, again, it's easy to put everyone else first, and I'm guilty of this. But we have to also show up for ourselves first, take care of ourselves, our mental health, our physical health. There's a lot that goes into this, running a company and a team, that I don't think a lot of people really realize, right? It's a lot. And I think all of these compounding effects, combined with the uncertainty of running a startup, right? The general uncertainty can really get us down and start to affect our mental and physical health as well. Have you seen that?
Absolutely. Yeah. I've seen it myself with entrepreneurs that I work with. I wholeheartedly agree with you on this. I've had days where I've worked an exorbitant amount of hours and thought I was accomplishing a ton. Then I've had days where I've done like 2 hours of deep work and actually gotten way, way ahead, right, of where I should have been that day, because I was so focused and intentional about the item that I was working on. And I think you're absolutely correct. Being an entrepreneur is so much more than just like building a company. It's a lifestyle. It's an entire ethos of like who you are. And to be the best version of that thing, you not only have to build a product that's great for clients and an environment and a culture that's great for employees, but you also need to be great at everything else. And I think we forget about that. You need to be in good mental health. You need to be in shape. You need to eat well. You need to have great relationships with friends, with family. You need to be a great, in my instance, right, I strive to be a really great son and brother and husband and father, right? All of those things pour into who you are as an entrepreneur. And I think that we generalize entrepreneurship sometimes with just like the business and how well the business is doing. The best entrepreneurs I know, business is not just going well. It seems that a lot of things are going well in their life, right? Relationship health and business aligned.
That's not a coincidence. That's not a coincidence. It's the environment we surround ourselves with, right? And it's hard as an entrepreneur, and I know you've experienced this. Everybody's really excited until you launch. And then you look around, you look left, you look right, and nobody bought your stuff. And you think, I thought I had a lot of friends. I thought I had a good support system. And some of the most revealing times in our lives as human beings are when we do something big. And then we look left and look right, front and center, and there's nobody there. That can be a hard pill to swallow for a lot of people, because a lot of people that we start business, not many people start businesses with the wrong intentions, right? We start businesses with the right intentions. We're excited. We're gifted at whatever it is that we're doing. We want to genuinely help people, but then we don't see it around us. And this is a real turning point for entrepreneurs, because I know it happens to every single one out there. It's your environment and your support system. And ultimately, going back to what you said as well, if we're not taking care of our physical and mental health, and then we look around and don't see anybody there, it's going to feel like we are failures. Why did I leave my corporate job, we say, right? Why did I do this? Kyle, take us back to a time, my friend, because I know it happened to me. I'll be just blatantly honest.
Yeah.
And it happens to you, and I'm sure it happens to the entrepreneurs you mentor as well, right?
Absolutely. Absolutely. I would say very rarely do I talk to someone who hasn't considered going back, right, into kind of the corporate lifestyle. And I will also say, Tara, that I'm a big proponent of side hustles. And so like if you need to have that steady income, and that you can do great work for someone too, right? I'm not a big like fan of like, hey, I'm just going to go get a job and like do 50% of the work and like just kind of like, mosey on through it so I can like continue to work on the thing for me. Give everything that you have for like this other entrepreneur that started this business, et cetera. If you can do that, if you can balance that 9 to 5 and then build your side hustle, that's completely okay. I think sometimes there's a little bit of shame tied to that. And I think it's admirable, right, to be able to balance both, to be completely fair. And if you need to be in that situation financially or whatever it might be, then you should do that thing, right, in that moment, in that season. But yeah, I mean, there's been times, I probably even in like the last 12 months, I've been like on full on entrepreneurship for quite a while, but even in the last 12 months, there's been roles that have come to me from people in my network or referrals, et cetera, that I'm like, oh, this is enticing. Like I should consider this, even though, I've got my consulting firm and like I've got these clients, et cetera. This is something worth looking into. And I start to think about the same thing. I've got a new child and all this different stuff. And like, would it be better healthcare than we get through my spouse, et cetera? Like I'm in a very privileged position where we have something, and I gotta have things that other entrepreneurs wouldn't have, in regard to benefits and stuff like that. So if you're, you sometimes have to make that tough decision. You have to reflect on if, being an entrepreneur, there's going to be self-doubt that creeps in, but I think you're onto something where it's like, as long as you kind of have that path and you have that support system and you can continue to move forward, that's the biggest thing. You just got to get to like that next prospect, that next conversation, right? That next maybe LinkedIn post even, posting online to build your brand, et cetera. So that right ICP will see it, because when you talk about the ecosystem that you kind of create for yourself, you're also going to get a lot of unsolicited advice, from people who aren't entrepreneurs, right? Is this the right thing you should do? Is this the right time? Like how much is that going to cost? Are you taking like, I even see it still with even this past weekend, my wife and I, we were out and we're having a conversation with someone. They're asking what we do. And my wife kind of introed for me, right? Like gave kind of like, this is Kyle, he works for himself, et cetera, et cetera. And it was kind of like oh yeah, okay, like type of thing where it's like, she's a business finance manager on this corporate side, with 250 million in under management, et cetera. And that's like something to talk about because it's like an interesting thing versus like, oh, he works for himself. Like, okay, and the individual we're talking to is like, my husband's going to do that too. And we got our savings lined up and we're going to do this different stuff. Like it's a reality of the situation, right? There's a lot of risk involved and it's perceived as such by individuals who aren't entrepreneurs. And like today they're kind of right, it might not be the best decision for you right now, but eventually, right, it is. It absolutely is. So finding a way and sticking with it, I would say working with, surrounding yourself or working with people who are in the similar circles, even working with a coach, right? And I know like not everyone has the additional funds to work with someone, but it is a great way to stay motivated and to make sure you always have someone in your corner to push you in the right direction.
Oh my gosh, 100%. It's an accountability factor. It's a motivational factor. It's a support factor. It's a strategy factor. There's a couple different, layers to that because we can't see the holes in our own ship. I've said that many times, and it's true with whatever it is, right? So having somebody to lean on, whether it's a coach, mentor, advisor, whatever, really can absolutely propel you to that next level because, like I said a little bit ago, if our environment is not conducive for that growth, right? And if we're hanging around people that are risk averse, that have built-in limiting beliefs, that have fear of failure, the thing that they're going to do, and it's not an intentional thing per se, but they will absolutely trap you those limiting beliefs and hand them to you with a bow on top and say, here's everything that I've ever been afraid of. You should be too, right? Because we've all been there. I can't tell you how many times people told me I shouldn't write a book. It's risky. Nobody, right? That I shouldn't start my own business. That I shouldn't have quit my corporate job. That I shouldn't. And we can listen to that advice, and I'm not saying that advice is wrong. Is it for you, and is it conducive for your goals and future? And I think that's why, especially in entrepreneurship, it's really important to know who you're telling your big dreams and goals to. Because not everybody's going to be so supportive, right? And again, it's not necessarily an intentional thing, but there's a lot of people that are risk averse or have these fears and limiting beliefs, and they want to protect you.
Yeah.
They might try to translate those onto you. And sometimes we soak them up just like sponges, right? That's not easy, Kyle. So I think another good way to be successful as an entrepreneur is to hang out with people that have already made that jump and leap, that are cash flow positive, that you can almost be successful via osmosis with, and lean on those mentors because they've already done the thing that you're trying to do. What do you think about that?
Yeah, absolutely. I found it hard to find someone who is further ahead of me in regard to like what I view as success that hasn't been willing to just offer up some level of support or introduction or anything, right? Even sitting down and having a conversation like this, and at times when I've had self-limiting beliefs, etc. Because you're right, it is difficult, and rightfully so. People that care about us should warn us about the pitfalls of entrepreneurship. I mean, let's be honest, majority of businesses fail, right? Something's going to happen, right? And it's about making sure that you're always in the best position though to make your business succeed, whatever that looks like, whether it's talking to the next prospect or talking to the next investor, depending on the kind of where you're at. So I agree with you wholeheartedly. And I think that tools like LinkedIn have made individuals more accessible than ever to have those conversations, which is great, which is phenomenal. You have such close access to anyone who's a little bit maybe further ahead of you or a long ways ahead of you that are willing to have conversations from what I've seen.
I agree. And I think that is an unspoken rule of what people think, people think of success. If you are not sure, ask someone for help. The people that give you the best advice, the people that are willing to say, here you go, here's everything on a silver platter, those people have made it. I feel like it's the people that withhold information, the people that are not willing to share, the people that are afraid that you're going to get ahead or something like that ahead of them. They haven't made it. There's a scarcity there. When you have made it, it's an abundance mindset, and you're willing to give and share because you recognize that your success does not diminish my own. And that's pretty powerful. And again, all of this translates to how we lead ourselves and how we lead others too, right? Surrounding ourselves with good mentorship and guidance and advice actively helps demonstrate to our team that we're continuous learners, that we don't know everything and never claim to be. That's another big barrier sometimes with, a company owner is they feel like they have to know it all. They feel like they have to know it all. And sometimes that ego can get in our way and prevent us from actually achieving that level of success, don't you think?
Definitely. Yeah. It can be a lot to bite off, right? Especially depending on what you're offering. Or think about how rapidly technology moves, right? So if you're a service-based business and you rely on third-party technology stacks to make your business go, right, and to deliver or over-deliver for your clientele, I think the rate of obsolescence these days with technology is anywhere from 12 to 18 months. And so staying on top of, right, what is the most crucial technology to help me stay ahead versus prospecting and delivering for clients and managing maybe my employees, et cetera, whatever that might look like, accounting, all the hats that we have to wear, right? It's near impossible, right? Like it can be difficult. So hiring for someone who can take that burden away of having to stay on top of that technology that can be an A player, come and do the job. That's what you should be looking for. But yeah, I agree with you. I think that's one of the bottlenecks that we see from time, that I see from time to time. I'm working with not just entrepreneurs, but also some, from companies that are scaling, companies that have been around for 13, 15, 20 plus years that I work with, right, are timid to hire or give up their sales process to someone else. Right. And so you mentioned something in the beginning around data, and I think that's where I like to kind of take that conversation when I get into those moments where, I can't give these reins to anyone else, right? We have to break down sometimes it's breaking down time and what the cost of inaction is of having a player, right? Or, tying it back to just like you would in a sales process, what the biggest reason, the biggest why is of that organization. So I had a client that wanted to exit, right, in the future, and they wanted their multiple to be as high as possible. Well, how are you going to exit your business if everything runs through you as the business owner and you're the sole person that finalizes every deal, right? Where are the systems and processes to show this is repeatable and scalable without you? They aren't buying you, right? They want to buy your business without you. And so when you can break it down and use data to show, here's the future state that you could be looking at, without that, I think we can take the ego away a little bit. So, but that can be tough with self-reflection if you're kind of working through that yourself, for sure.
Absolutely. And it's really hard when you're building and you are that person, you are the face, right? And that's the exact quandary I was in. I started my business full-time in 2022. I was the face of the company forever. And then I realized, what if one day I want to sell this company? Well, if I'm the one who does everything, if I'm the one reason people buy, it won't convert and it won't be desirable, right? So you have to think of it that way. It's not about you. It's about who you bring on, your people, your processes, and your systems, right? Those are the things that are going to make your company highly desirable. And also the partnerships, people, system, processes, partnerships. I think I got a good list there. Those are very desirable. Those make your company run more efficiently. They give a better quality of life to you as well, because all of a sudden you go from being the Jane or Jack of all tricks to actually, what are you doing now? You're leading people, which is what you should be doing anyway, right? You're actually being a leader. And you are inspiring others, and they're building relationships with clients. Honestly, as a CEO, that is your main focus. Be a leader of your team, train really well, hire very well, and then develop people. And then also being the relationship person for clients. That's huge, right? And if you can focus your efforts on that, you're already well surpassed where many businesses are. The best thing you can do is not do it all. I know it sounds tempting though, Kyle. It sounds so tempting. In an age of courses where we learn how to do everything, it sounds very tempting, right? To watch a YouTube video and say, I can do this. Right? Sounds tempting, but it dilutes us a little bit every time, right?
Yeah, and I think technology has, certainly made us much more efficient over the past couple of decades, which is amazing. And the average entrepreneur today, I agree, they could probably do the work of 3 to 4 people, right, with the correct tools, systems, processes, and tech stack, et cetera. But yeah, what you're alluding to is everything that comes with that, right? The opportunity cost of managing everything yourself, the future state of your business, right? How fast you want to scale as well is going to be hindered, as well as kind of your mental and physical health. As you start to take on more clients and your business grows, it's going to take more time. And if you don't have anyone that you can delegate to and that you can trust to do some of that work, it's going to start to take away from those other aspects that we talked about that make you a phenomenal entrepreneur. Your family, your relationships, your ecosystem, et cetera. And it becomes focused in on just my work and just my business, which is a slippery slope, for sure, because you need that balance. So I think that you make a really great point, and it's a good tie-in to the complete entrepreneur we talked about at the beginning.
Yes. And it sounds so simple, right? Learn how to lead a team of one before you lead a team of many. But, Kyle, you know this. You came from corporate. How many personal development trainings did you really go to, right? I mean, probably few and far between. Most people that are in corporate that go into a leadership or management role don't get training for years, if ever. And rarely do we get training on self. We get training on how to lead others, but it really starts here. And that's why I'm so passionate about personal development, because the origin point is always with ourselves, right? And if we're starting a business, that takes a lot of confidence. It takes a lot of guts. It takes a lot of all sorts of stuff. So in order for us to do something really big, we have to start with ourselves and always have a home to call back when things get crazy, because they will, right? We always have to be grounded and stay centered. And I think that's a great way to do it, is by developing our own self first. And you know what? People pay attention. Investors pay attention. Partners pay attention. Clients pay attention. People can smell it. That leader of one. People know. They understand, especially another leader, right? So it's really important, and I don't want to gloss over that, because, again, I think it happens a lot where we gloss over these things, but ultimately it is a real differentiating factor as a leader to be self-aware. It's so, so huge. With that falls everything from emotional intelligence and beyond. So it's really important. But I would love to know a final last piece of advice you would have for anybody listening, especially an entrepreneur, maybe somebody starting a company, right? So maybe there's somebody out there who's listening to this right now that just needs some good piece of advice before they dive head first and start that company as far as leadership or self-leadership go. Kyle, what would you say one good piece of advice would be for that person?
Ooh, that's tough. Let's see. So just diving in, it's a good question. I would probably advise them a topic that we talked about quite a bit, which would be to surround yourself with other entrepreneurs. I would get out into networking events. I would join groups on social media. If you can afford it, I would join either a course or work one-to-one with someone in regard to being an entrepreneur, because it is a lot to take on, especially if you're going to be making a giant transition, or if you're trying to manage both a kind of a W-2 and a side hustle as you try to increase your income. Having that support system when you jump into being an entrepreneur is very, very critical. I'm making some assumptions here, right? That maybe you've thought through your offer already and you kind of know who your prospects are, that type of thing. But again, those ecosystems can help you with solving those problems, even if you don't know. So even if you're thinking about jumping into entrepreneurship, I think there's some great groups, some great people, even if it just starts with following individuals on LinkedIn to get exposed to their content, their frameworks, the way they think about things, to get ready for entrepreneurship is a great first step.
I love that. Start building a community before you leap. I think that's a huge piece of advice because I didn't do that. And guess what? It took me all this time, right, to build a community online and then have success. So there was months and months where I didn't feel like I was going to make it because I didn't have that community in place first. And then when I leaped, I had to create a wheel from scratch. If you already have the wheel made and then you launch, so much easier to roll.
Yeah, I agree. Right? I agree. I say all the time, it took me 10 years to get my first client. And then the reason I say that is because I always thought about being an entrepreneur and building a client base, et cetera. But, I was focused on my career and building that on the corporate side. But always in the back of my mind was I should try this. I should try that. I should do this. And it wasn't until I just immersed myself with other entrepreneurs that I got the confidence. And was I can do this. And then it started to snowball from there, like you're saying.
Confidence is a good first step. But I will say to anybody listening, if you have the desire within you, you have the ability. That is the first thing. The confidence is going to keep the fuel going. So you have the desire, you pair that with confidence, all of a sudden, those skills that you need, they'll come to you. Or if you if they don't come to you, the people that have those skills will appear in your life and it'll be a good fit. And then all of a sudden you'll go one step further. But have the confidence and make sure you're surrounding yourself with, as you said, Kyle, people who support you in your goals and dreams. I think that is so perfect and so timely. Thank you so much for sharing your wisdom of entrepreneurship, being a guest on the show. And for everyone who tuned in today, guys, make sure you hit subscribe, follow this show, share it with your friends, and leave a review because we can only grow as far as my audience supports. So make sure you're supporting. But thank you so much for coming on the show today, Kyle. We will have you back again for sure. And everybody who tuned in today, we will catch you on the next episode. Take care. And that's a wrap for this episode of Grasp Confidence. Thank you for joining me today and investing in yourself. Remember, building confidence is an ongoing journey, and each step you take brings you closer to the empowered, fearless version of yourself that you were born to be. Don't forget to visit my website, follow me on social media, and purchase my book, which is available on Amazon. Thank you for listening. We will see you on the next episode. Stay confident.